Well, yeah, what can I say? Just this. There was this longing, Kenneth, for to get you on the show, right? And to just chat, just this, whatever seems to be happening, sitting and talking and whatever. So I was wondering, there seems to be a love there for this message and for music, playing guitar. I heard some singing, uh, and I see meetings in Amsterdam and all that. I was just wondering, was it always like that? I mean, it's always this. That's quite obvious, but the love to talk and play guitar or whatever. How's that? How
Well,
is that?
there's two different things there. There's the music and there's the sharing of the message. So really, like I I just try and keep it very simple. I don't play guitar on my meetings or anything, and it's just a thing. I enjoy music, so sometimes they're at the beginning of the ones I put up on YouTube. Um, so the thing about the guitar as well is, I think the thing about the messages is just it needs to be really simple and direct. And maybe if I'm playing guitar, it has a maybe that it's entertaining or something like that, So it's not a communication which I'm trying to entertain anybody. Um so yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that kind of pans out. But yeah, it's just something I like, and that's music is what do you say about music? I don't know. It's nothing and everything.
Yeah,
So yeah, there you go. I don't know anything really about music. I can't talk about it. Anytime I talk about it, what do you say? But regarding though the communication, like I mean, that was really no, it wasn't in the characters. Kenneth, the character, it wasn't in something that was in my nature to try and to speak to groups or to speak on front of people or anything. So it came as a big surprise actually that it was shared like that, because if logically it would not be the thing that I would choose to do. I would choose not to do that actually. I
yeah,
would choose
beautiful.
not to speak to people at all. I would like and when I was in them sorts of situations, I do it, but I would not. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like being center of attention or any of that. And then when this apparently happened, it was the communication. There was just this passion about it, and none of that mattered then at all. It didn't matter what I was comfortable with or not comfortable with, or it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. It was just this was there to be shared. And yeah, so it's quite a surprise, actually, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it always seems a surprise, right? You never know what next.
Yeah, what
Anything.
always struck me with it was, well, there's a few things about it. First of all, there's no authority in it. So there's nobody who knows this and is an authority on it, even though it seems that there are some speakers who are really clear. And it's just, it is that way and it seems that way. But the clear communication has actually nothing to do with them and comes from unknowing. Actually, it doesn't come from knowing. And the ones where it does come from knowing, for me, it's very energetically different, totally different. Although the words could sound almost identical, actually, very, very similar. So it's just this sharing without agenda from nothing. And it's what struck me was it was incredible how it would just be there. I'll just be there, this conversation, whether it was with friends or with random people or with people in work, or it was always that element to me of surprise of, oh, this is being discussed, like, oh, seemingly out of nowhere, and then logically the people I thought I would talk to about that conversation never happened then.
Exactly.
So that and that's amazing to me. Yeah. So it's just this sharing without agenda from nothing. What I also noticed all about that was it was totally energetic. It was completely energetic, and it would just resonate with someone, and it would
Yeah.
just be this, and I could almost see it resonating. and then they could be back then thinking what if or whatever. But and it might just be one conversation, or it might be the kind of opening to more, but it didn't matter anyway. But that's kind of how it was there, and that's the way it was since. Whether it was speaking to one person, it wasn't. It was always like that. It was always just energetic, and then it just seemed to come more, and then there seemed to be more questions, and
Yeah,
um, then
actually.
meetings or whatever. I was invited to do meetings 13 years ago. I think it was my first meeting, and then that's the way it was, and that's the way it is. That's the way it appears to be.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, and I mean, you're saying there's no authority, but in the same way, I mean, this is no one's message, it doesn't come from anyone. It's not for someone, it's not by someone, but there seems to be, or there may appear to be an idea that it comes from someone, that there are some characters knowing this, and that's just, I mean, it's heard as it heard and it's seen as it's seen. There's no one able to control that. Maybe the idea arises that Kenneth knows something,
That's the way it will feel if you feel like an individual.
and
Um,
that's it already,
that's the way it is.
feeling.
There's
Yeah.
no way around that. And
Oh,
plus, it will also always be seen as a carrot, some sort of a carrot. It's
yes,
impossible for this to be communicated without it seeming
absolutely.
like something that I would be attractive to me or whatever. But it
Yes,
doesn't matter, like because the whole point is that it doesn't
it
matter
doesn't
what
matter.
the individual thinks, or it's not about that. The individual will always bring questions because
Yes,
that's the nature of living and knowing. And you want to always have energetically want to get something. And the answers come from nothing, and it's a clear communication. There's nothing to get. And there's energetically that what happens is there's a resonance, there's a boundlessness with that, then that some are very sensitive to experientially. This is what we feel to be our reality, is that I was born, I have a life, and I'm making choices, and the what's happening in my life is a result of these choices that I make. And so there's a real lived sense of causality and time, and that feels very solid and real. And for some, then there's a huge dissatisfaction in that, and there's a huge yearning from it, and then there's a questioning about it. And there you go. Then you have a seeker, really. But like, I don't differentiate really, because everyone who feels separate is seeking, obviously. But for some, there's more of a kind of a sensitivity to it, um, and then you have this whole spiritual seeking, obviously, which you're moving into the area then where it's explicitly stating, listen, what you're looking for is not going to be found in a Ferrari and a Lamborghini and a bigger house and a bigger job and more sex and all of this kind of stuff and gambling and whatever thing your thing is. It's not going to be in something. So it's actually in here. It's in nothing. And I mean, that's a huge area then. So we'd be a long time even covering the different areas of that. But that makes sense logically too. Like, that there's a sense that it's not something that will satisfy. So maybe it's this self-inquiry, or some sort of spiritual state or whatever. It depends what, and people are listening to different things. And then in that, then there's this communication then, which is it's an agendaless sharing, a suggestion, a description that suggests there's nothing to get. It's actually an apparent loss, that there is no
yes,
separate you. And it's very different to communications then that speak to somebody and they tell them what to do to get somewhere. Energetically, it seemed to be kind of doing something, and then it just, woof, there's
yes.
nothing in it for me anymore at all. Yeah.
It was the same here. I was, without calling names, but I was very in love with the guru, and it was full on a couple of years even. And then
Mm.
from one day to the other, it was waking up, and even the voice, I could not listen to the voice. There was no hate or something like that,
No,
or
no, no.
but it was just over, it stopped totally from one day to the other. And I mean, still the characters liked what you also are saying there, there's nothing wrong or
No.
anything, but it's just, it doesn't, it's like there's maybe a love for heavy metal or whatever kind of music, and there's no, you cannot hear something else, it just doesn't work that way anymore. It's just over. It's
It's
done.
just energetic. It's all energetic. Like all of like that whole dynamic as well. If it's a guru, that's like that's a feedback loop, really. So you feel that there's something missing, and then that person is a teacher, and you're a student, and it just feeds back. And then when it breaks, it's like turning off a light switch. It's like turning off the light. I often use that analogy because if you create the circuit by turning on the light, you create this energetic loop, and that's kind of how it is. Like you really do feel this, like they're special. You can,
Yes.
so again, it's energetic. Like that special thing just collapses. And I have no idea, like this can happen years before they hear this kind of communication.
Yes.
It can happen decades before, and then they might, and then I have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and even this clear, direct communication can be the next thing, It can just simply be the next thing,
Well, yeah, it's
Well,
heard as it's heard. It doesn't, it
where is
could
it heard?
be
Yeah, it's
because it's not anything. It's just this,
exactly.
it's a sharing. So some like some don't, most I would say don't even hear it at all, really. Like they hear their version of what's said.
There's
Yeah.
already no one hearing this already, or
Yeah.
speaking this, which is a separate you being somewhere hidden speaking this, So it's heard as it heard. There's no control in how it's seen or heard.
Yeah,
And it,
of course,
it just
clearly,
simply
yeah.
is heard as it heard. And which is this also, hearing this as a teaching or not is just simply what seems to be happening then.
Of course, yeah. That's the whole thing with the meetings is there's no agenda. It's very, some
Yes.
people pick up on that very quickly. They know
Yeah.
that there's no they sense they're not being spoken to.
Yeah.
And for some, that's a relief. Actually, they're
Yeah.
being seen as unconditional love
Yes.
because they are everything. Everything is nothing. That's so that can be immediately seen. And but some also they sense they're not being spoken to, and they feel they feel very confronted by that.
Yes.
They really struggle with that. And for some, often it's both. It's like this the resonance and then also a huge sense of wanting to run out of the room.
Yes.
Like I hear it so often, people like they're just really amazed by it, and they simultaneously want to leave, and that's what it is that it's resonating, but then energetically that feels separate. Actually, because it's resonating, that feels separate feels I'm in trouble here. I'm in big trouble here. Actually, this is not a safe place to be. And of course it isn't, because it's the
No.
illumination that you're not real, you're not there. So all sorts of things appear to happen. Anything along that whole spectrum can appear to happen. People can be very confronted and walk out straight away, or anything. It doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's no agenda for anyone to fall away because there is nobody.
There's no one already, there's no
So
one ready to fall
you know,
away.
so that's how it's a clear message then, and that's why also it's a rare message.
Yes.
It's not as common as people think.
No. No.
So it's energetic, and it's this it can't describe what it is, but nobody's been spoken to or addressed, and there's no agenda for anybody to fall away or not fall away or anything.
Exactly.
And then and that's what makes it so different, because we're constantly being spoken to about
Yes.
how we can become more this and less this, and move closer to what we're looking for. So immediately then, when it's that communication, it's confirming that it's separate to you. If you
Yes.
can move closer to it, then
Yeah.
you are an individual then. And
Yeah.
energetically, people they just totally relax with that. I almost envisage they go in and they hear that kind, no matter what, it doesn't really, the words can be very similar, but you can almost see that, oh, it's okay, I'm safe here, I'm grand. Because I mean they can an individual knows when they're being spoken to immediately.
Yeah, and feeling like you need to fall away or whatever is just simply rising or not.
Yeah, of
This
course, yeah.
there's nothing, there's no escape because there's no you to escape whatever seems to be or not seems to be happening.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
there's a resonance with what's said, and then there's there's a curiosity about it, and there's a draw to it, and
yes,
it just plays out like it does. So for some, there's that resonance and curiosity, and then they just move away from it. Actually, they don't want to hear it anymore. So they move back to the safety of a teacher, and they
yes.
can remain there for quite a while, and then some. It's curious because I started apparently a while ago. I've seen people come back like
Uh,
7, 8 years later,
oh.
and it's like I couldn't hear you 7 or 8 years ago. I sat through that whole meeting and like I just whatever, you know. So I mean, that's just the way it is.
It's just simply what seems to be happening.
Yeah,
Seeking for something, there's already no seeker. There's already no one seeking. There's just seeking
yeah,
or whatever seems to be happening. No one doing it.
yeah,
Is this, the longing to get free is already just simply this.
yeah.
The longing to get free. And it's not for someone or by someone.
Mm-hmm.
It will arise.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, Kenneth, was there seeking there?
Yeah, there was
Was
seeking
there
with
seeking?
everyone who feels separate. So there was a sense of seeking, but not in a traditional
Yeah,
when there's a sense of separation, there's a question and there's a yearning that comes from that. So there
Yeah.
isn't anyone who's not seeking. Now that degree of that seeking varies,
yeah,
from person to person. So some people there's a huge yearning. There's just a huge yearning, and for others not so much, and that's just the way it plays out. But there's always a question when you feel you have a life. There's a question about that because no matter what you feel you do in your life, there's something or what satisfaction you get and everything. There's a question underneath it all, whether it's positive or negative or whatever. So and that's just the way it is then. And everyone is actually seeking their own absence, really. Spiritual seeking is of no relevance really at all. Don't differentiate spiritual seeking from someone who's trying to make a lot of money. Explicitly in a lot of spiritual traditions, it does say there is no separate you, right? So it's naming it, it's saying that really there's a sense of unworthiness and unwholeness that comes from your sense that you feel you're a separate individual. And then it prescribes a way for you to do something to not be separate. So
yeah.
it just reinforces. It's even more powerful maybe than possibly material. The
Of
idea
course.
of getting stuff materially, this idea of this really exploring this thing called consciousness and awareness, and it's like you're delving into this limitless me, and it's just because it's just unending. You can just continue, you'll never, and the energetically the individual loves that.
Yeah,
It loves that it can never, because it knows I can never get there. And it loves levels because it knows really there's no end to the level. So it just loves all of that nonsense. Yeah. So that's the way it is. And I completely understand how people really like it. I've also met people who like to meditate and they don't really buy any of the enlightenment stuff. They just think, oh fuck it. I go for a cycle, I meditate, I
of
do whatever. And that's fair enough too. Obviously we just
course.
generalize when we're talking about these kinds of things. So
You know, uh, Playing guitar, liking to play guitar, liking to do physical exercise. You may call it yoga, whatever you want to call it. It's just simply what seems to be happening. But there's no
yeah.
one liking it or not liking it already. It's just simply,
Yeah.
and also with the seeking God or seeking enlightenment is just the same.